Hey everyone, Seth at Hub City Vintage, and I've got an interesting one. I thought you guys might enjoy taking a closer look at this one because it's a bit mysterious in a couple of ways. First, it's part of Seiko's, quote, The Great Blue series, which there really isn't a lot of information about to begin with. It doesn't seem that this was a collection ever offered to the North American market and was mostly available in the Southeast Asian market. If you've been a Seiko collector for any period of time, you'll know that that's a market rife with limited editions and one-off offerings that we don't always see here. And to be honest, sometimes they're not even offered in Japan. From what I can gather, the Great Blue series first appeared in the late 90s and has run through a variety of styles since. If you're interested, there's a bit of information in some of the popular Seiko forums, but my main purpose for showing you this one today is because it's a perpetual calendar, which we will be setting up for the next nearly 100 years. This particular movement, the 8F series, was introduced in the late 90s and ran through the early part of the 2000s, and if I'm not mistaken, was possibly rendered obsolete with the introduction of radio-controlled movements, some of the radio-controlled movements that followed in around 2005. Now, these 8F movements they're no slouch. They're actually pretty impressive. They fall into the HEQ category by consensus, pretty much, which just means high-end quartz due to their high torque characteristics and extreme accuracy on the order of around 20 seconds per year variance. Of course, setting a mechanical perpetual calendar is arguably much more difficult than this quartz version, but this one can certainly come off as a bit intimidating for the average user, and because they're so popular, I'm going to show you guys how to do this in case you get one of your own, but you're welcome to send it if you need some help with it. All right, I'm going to get the case back off of this one and get everything set up, and we'll take you through how to go about setting the time and perpetual calendar for these 8F Seiko movements. All right, so with the case back off, you guys can see we've got a large lithium battery here, Seiko's BR2412. It's recommended to use Seiko's battery for this. It's a 3-volt lithium. You should be able to get 8 to 10 years out of a battery like this. It's very large and low drain. But importantly, what you'll want to do is if you use a Panasonic or any other a replacement battery, if it doesn't come with this insulation tape that you see here, remove that from the old battery and use it if you have nothing else. But the nice thing about the Seiko replacement is it comes already installed with the insulation tape. And you can see here this arrow is going to tell you exactly how to align the battery. You want that arrow to line up with the time setting crown. And of course this other side, you can see it's just a flap to help hold that insulation tape in place. On the other side, most of the negative contact space of the battery is covered. There's just a couple of holes that allow the battery to make contact where it needs to and nowhere else to prevent any sort of short or anything like that. That insulation is important. Again, make sure you line this up the way you are supposed to, and that is with the arrow on that tape pointing to the time setting crown and stem. I say that because on this one there are actually 2 crowns. Most of them won't have this, but as this is a GMT, like other Seiko GMTs, the second crown, as you can see here, has a gear on the stem that allows you to, we can turn this over real quick and I'll show you, to rotate this inner bezel forward and backward, like you would on, say, like a navigator timer or something like that. All right, so what we want to do first is if we've put our new battery in, and again, I do want to say, be very careful if you attempt to do this on your own. The circuit block in these watches, this 8F movement, it is very thin and very fragile. Imagine like wafer thin electronics that with very little effort you can break, and it is getting much more difficult to find replacement parts for these watches. So, as far as changing the battery in this watch, it's not as simple as it may appear from the top, because you do have that very delicate circuit mechanism, and you want to be sure that you put it in with as least force as possible. There are a few tabs here in plastic that help hold the battery in place, and of course there's like a retainer spring here that holds the outside. Just be sure if you do drop a new battery in there, you pull this spring out of the way, and with as little force as possible, set the battery gently in place. Once again, very easy to break. And after you put in a new battery, if you do it within a couple of minutes, a lot of times these movements are programmed to retain that memory for the perpetual calendar, but if there's any sort of delay, lots of times the calendar will be cleared on its own. I recommend just resetting it anyway, just to be sure that everything is done. So what we want to start with, of course, is our AC connector. And I'll put some close-up pictures here so you guys can see. It's obviously difficult to make that out. Everything we're going to do with setting this watch is going to concern these 4 connectors here. This little gold connector here, here, and we've got one up here as well. And everything to do with setting this watch will just involve touching one of those connectors, and then again the back of the battery here, our plus side, is going to help us to create that short that will actuate the various functions that we need to set in order to get this watch set for its perpetual calendar. All right, so we've just put a brand new battery in, and that always the first step you want to do is to have the new battery meet this movement for the first time by doing an AC reset. And of course our AC is going to be here, and what we'll do is just touch the tip of our tweezers to the back of the battery just for 2 or 3 seconds, and that basically allows the movement to know that there's a fresh battery installed and there's nothing, it's all the connections are right. If we turn it over now, we'll see our second hand is ticking every second, and what we want to do after that is pull the time setting crown out all the way and immediately push it right back in. I may have not done that quick enough, but we'll see. All right, so as you can see now that the second hand is ticking over every 4 or 5 seconds, and that just lets you know that we are now in the setting mode for this watch. So as long as that hand is moving every 4 or 5 seconds, you know you've so far done everything correctly. All right, let's set it back down. And the first thing you'll want to do is zero out the calendar completely. And the way you do that, as I mentioned, so we've got our connections here. I believe this one is the AC again, and next to the AC is, I think, the day. Yep, so there's a small D here. I'll put up a picture so you can see these connections a little closer. A D there for day. On the other side here, we've got our 0 for zeroing the calendar, followed by the month connection, and on the back side there, of course, will be the year. So in order to zero the calendar, what we want to do is touch that 0 contact until our calendar window reads 1. Right now it's at 7, so we've got quite a ways to go. We have to touch it several times to get it back to 1. And I'll just show you if we touch that 0, let's just make sure. I always like to double check. Yeah, that's our 0, calendar 0. If we touch that one time, oh, actually I have to pull the crown back out first, sorry. Yep. You're in setting mode with that hand ticking over every 4 or 5 seconds, but you'll then want to pull the crown back out so that the second hand isn't moving at all. And now we're ready to set. So we'll go to the 0 here and touch the case back, or the battery back in that connection one time. We'll see, just so you can see that the calendar, I think I've already touched it twice, is already at 9. So what we're going to want to do is to get it back to 1. So this should be 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 24, 25. Let's see if my counting is on track. Yep, we are at 25 in the window. I'm going to keep going. And just something to keep in mind, you don't need to touch this. Most of these I see, these little gold connections are very badly scratched up. A lot of times the gold is missing altogether. It's really just a light touch. There's no need to dig into that connection. If you're doing it right, it's literally just the lightest touch will get you there. 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and let's just double check that before I click over to the last time. Yes, we are at 31. So one more should have us at 1. All right, in our window there, you can see that the calendar is at 1. That means that our calendar has been zeroed out altogether and is ready to be set. So what we'll do is set the year first, and this is where it can get a little tricky. We need to go around to this back side here. That's our year connector. The way it understands the calendar is to associate it with leap years. Obviously, it would be much easier to set a perpetual calendar in a watch if you didn't have to account for leap years, but obviously every 4th year is going to have an extra day, whereas February gets 29 instead of 28, so that very quickly can throw a calendar mechanism out of whack if it's not able to account for that. So that's how we'll figure out what year to set our watch to. Now, the way you want to start is leap year is 4 on our setup here, and of course, if you start at 4, the next year after leap year, let's just go ahead and do the math here. 2020 was leap year, so that would be 4, and then 2021 would be 1. 2022 would be 2 years from leap year. 2023, the current year now, is 3. Of course, then 2024 would be 4 once again. So we have 1 in our window there, and what we want it to say is 3. So let's go around to the year setting here. And we're going to 1, 2, and 3. And if you're quiet and you're close to this, it actually sounds, you can actually hear the mechanism rolling over. It sounds a bit like a camera shutter, a small, tiny little camera shutter snap, I guess is the best way I can describe it. That's a bit what it sounds like. All right, so we have set our year to 3, and 20, let's just double check our math here. 2020 was leap year. 2023 is going to be 3 years from leap year, so that's what we want to make sure that we have showing in the window. 2024 next year will be 4. Yeah, all right. I just want to make sure we don't have any mistakes here, so that we can continue setting the watch. All right, so we'll go from the year there, and the next thing you would want to set is our month. So we'll basically go around to the other connection, go back to the month, which I believe is this guy here. So with our year set, you'll want to tell the watch that you want to set the month now, and the way you do that is to just hit that connection one time, the month connector in the battery, and it says, okay, we're not setting year anymore. We want to set the month. All right, we've got 1 in the window there. We've told the watch we want to set the month. This is the 12th month of the year. Go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll double check a couple times to be sure we don't pass it. That's 8 in the window there. 9, 10. I'm just going to stay on top of it this time. 11, 12. Check throughout while you're setting that, because you can. It's really easy to hit that connection twice and not realize it because you're using such a light touch. All right, so we're at 12. We know that's our month for December, and then we will want to do the same thing we did to make it register for the month. We want to do that for the day. So we'll go back around. It's the one closest to that AC reset there, and we'll tell the watch that we want to set the day. And you'll see it's kicking back to 1. And it knows now that we want to set the day. Today is December the 4th. And we will tell it exactly that. 2. I thought I bumped it twice. 3. And careful. 4. Ah, did it again. It feels like you can almost just get close enough to touch it, and without, even if you don't actually do it, there's just enough to make it arc a little bit. So we're gonna circle back. 6, 7, 8. That should have us getting close. 25, 30, 31, 1, 2, 3, 4. Did it again. All right, well, at least we were on the right day now. So we've set our year to 3, our month to 12, and our window now is registering 4 for the day. So once you've set the year, the month, and the day, you'll want to, again, pull the crown back out, and then actually, first, we've already got it pulled out. You want to push it in, pull it back out, and then push it in again. And be sure there are actually 3 positions there, so be sure, or 2 positions outside of neutral, all the way pressed in, 1 click, 2 clicks. So you want to pull it all the way out and push it back in. So we've pushed in, pulled out, and pushed back in, and our second hand should be ticking along every second here. You can see that it is, and it of course is the 4th. Now this one, the time wasn't too far off. I may have moved it some earlier, but I know that it's already at PM. Our GMT hand shows me that. So what we'll do is actually pull out the stem and crown to set the time back a bit to the actual time, which is, I think at this point, about 2:27. And then that's about it. Just be careful. Make sure you take note of your AM and PM times when you're setting the watch. I would recommend before starting setting, go ahead and know exactly what time is on the watch. Know whether your hour hand is beyond noon or getting, roll it through one time so you can see that it's on an AM or PM, because it's easy to kind of muck things up a little bit. Again, if you are not sure about what time you've got the watch set to when you go to set it, whether that's AM or PM, and you'll have your day or date changing early in the day, and you don't want to do that. But again, that's pretty much it. It's such a delicate mechanism that you really do want to be careful. But I thought this was an interesting watch, a very interesting movement, and certainly an interesting way to set that. And the watch should now memorize. I think that these were programmed through the year 2100. That's the calendar's longevity. That's how long that can sort of calculate days against this sort of formula they used to set this watch. So long after I will be here, and who knows, maybe the owner of this watch will see the next century, but certainly his watch should be right on time and date through the year 2100. And we've got everything set here, and hope you guys enjoyed that. Interesting watch. Of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask any comments. If you've got one of these 8F movements, tell me what you think, if you've enjoyed it. If you have never even seen one of these before, here was your shot. And of course, it was a pretty rare example anyway, being a great blue variant, but really just have only gotten to work with a handful of these over the years, honestly, because this is frankly pretty much a vintage watch now. Early 2000s seems like yesterday to me, but that's a long time ago, according to, as far as watches go. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know, and we'll see you on the next one.